The Catholic Church has incidentally said that the movie of Angels and Demons is harmless, so if you're a Catholic, then the Pope has given you his okay to go watch it. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make fun of Catholics. Well, no, actually I do. I've dated 2 of them. Anyway. Hello everyone, today's book review is going to be on Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. Angels and Demons is a thriller in which Robert Langdon, a religious symbologist from Harvard, has to stop a secret and long-thought-dead brotherhood called the Illuminati from destroying the Catholic Church. So what I'm going to talk about with regards to this book is what a thin line Dan Brown is walking throughout the entire thing, and in many different respects. First of all, the book is a thriller. That is the genre, and that is absolutely the best way to describe it. Actually, the blurb that's on the front here is really good. I'm going to read it to you. A breathless, real-time adventure. Exciting, fast-paced, with an unusually high IQ. San Francisco Chronicle. So, it's a thriller. It's exciting and fast-paced. It all takes place in the span of 24 hours. It moves quickly, and it reads, I mean, you look at how thick it is, but I finished reading it in about 2 days. It reads really, really quickly because you don't want to stop reading. You want to find out what happens next. But there's also a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff packed into this book. Not only is there a lot of information, but there are also a lot of debates and opinions. A lot of things to really make you think. Dan Brown really wants to make this book seem like it's something that is really happening, or something that could really happen. And so he's careful to tell you which parts of this book are actually real. In fact, there are moments in the book where Dan Brown will shift to the present tense, as if to tell you this isn't just an aspect of the story, this is something that really goes on in real life. Now that's one of the ways where he walks a fine line. The other way he walks a fine line is just in the very subject matter of the book itself. Because this book really is about the eternal battle between science and religion. Faith and logic. It's a battle that has been going on for centuries. And it's a battle that many people think never should have existed. The idea that is suggested in this book is that science and religion are not contradictory. But the danger in writing a book like this with this kind of subject matter is that your book will tend to side on either one side or the other. The book runs the risk of endorsing science over faith, which of course would make it unappealing to religious people, or of endorsing religion over science, which would make it unappealing to pretty much everyone else. But this book does neither. It manages to walk that fine line between religion and science, and it does this in a couple of ways. First, the protagonist, Robert Langdon, is the ultimate bystander. He studies religious symbology, so he knows a great deal about religion, but he has not really subscribed to a religion himself. On the other side of that, he is also a very logical person because he's a professor and he's educated, and so he's learned to think rationally. But he's not a scientist. He doesn't understand the science being pitted against the religion. He's not really part of that debate. And so he's a great outsider. He is the perfect person to take us into this story. And the other way is that even though Robert Langdon is the protagonist, the story is not told from his point of view. The story is actually told from many different points of view. The official term is third-person omniscient. So it doesn't subscribe to one person's beliefs and one person's opinions. It takes in everybody's. And one of the things that Dan Brown does in his stories, and does very well, is that he tells the story from the point of view of somebody who really has very little bearing on the plot. But he tells a story from an ordinary person's point of view for a little while. And so their own opinions on whatever debate is going on are allowed to come through. So we get the opinions of religious people, we get the opinions of the scientific people, and everybody in between. Not only does this make sure that one viewpoint is not allowed to rise above the others, but it also shows us that everyone has a different way of looking at things. And also Dan Brown is careful to make sure that we see both the good and the bad qualities of both sides. He portrays them in equal light, equally good, equally bad. There is one thing that kind of amuses me about this particular aspect of the book. He's able to walk the fine line between this very contentious debate between religion and science and maintain an objective viewpoint on all of this. However, as I was reading this, I was making note of the fact that every time somebody was talking about the press, it was always in a negative light. And it amuses me that someone who is able to keep an objective viewpoint on this religious science debate portrays the press in such a horribly negative and cynical light. But it doesn't really bother me, mostly because I find it funny, but also because I don't entirely disagree with him. So Dan Brown has given us two balancing acts, a thriller that holds a lot of information with nothing really extraneous, everything fitting into the story, and giving us the battle between science and religion without endorsing either side. So I still think that this book is brilliant. I actually like it better than the Da Vinci Code, although the Da Vinci Code is still on my favorites list, and I'll be reading that later this year. And the next set of books that I'm going to be reading is the Geodyssey series by Piers Anthony, starting with Isle of Women, the first book. The Geodyssey series really isn't a series in the sense that the stories connect. They're all part of the same universe and they're all written in the same way, but they're really more companion novels. They're all independent stories. And so I don't know if I'm going to be reading all 4 published books in the series, but I do know that at the very least I'm going to read the first 2. So that's what's next, and I will see you all next time. Bye now.